Hello, everyone. Well, this year was certainly another roller coaster, or in a way, another. So that would end it on another note by doing another milestone video that I've been wanting to do close to the entire year. So another franchise which has also had its own kind of roller coaster for the last few decades, but it's left an impact on me ever since I first got a chance to play it. I won Fateful Christmas back in 1997 when I was Genesis, so here is my look back at 30 years of Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, believe it or not, uh, Sonic was actually not the company's first killer app for the Genesis or the Mega Drive in Japan, and before that, the mascot of the company was Alex Kidd, who had a variety of games on the Genesis as well as its senior the Master System, and biggest killer apps include Cable's Ultra Beast, as well as the celebrity endorsements on top of the 16-bit raw power. It wasn't just football was like Joe Montana football. It wasn't just baseball. It's like Tommy Lasorda baseball. And most idiots of the bunch, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. And so, heading in the 90s with the Super Nintendo looming, they decided to design a mascot be the antithesis of Mario, one that would specifically appeal to Western players. Here's Maine. And so, Hope, initially being conceived as Mr. Needlemouse, an early concept, and also maintained seriously in development, and Sonic the Hedgehog first saw release on June 23rd, 1991. Sonic's design, both in terms of character and gameplay, were distinctly different from Mario, with a mostly blue color scheme and attitude, to early contrasting Mario's mainly red color scheme, more friendly persona, and the speed focused platforming was in stark contrast to Mario's slower, more relationless gameplay, which is also paired with another interesting tactic. Instead of Ultra Beast, Sonic overtook hook that game as a pack on top of Genesis, and also selling the console itself at $150, which undercut the $200 that the Super Nintendo sold out initially at the time. The results basically spoke for themselves. Almost mean the character not only going on to define Sega and the decade ahead as a whole, but it definitely helped overtake the heroes of Nintendo for the first time ever in the market share. And naturally, because of that game's success, that meant a sequel was all but inevitable. Yeah. On Sonic Tuesday, November 24th, 1992, Sonic 2 would release. These on the Sega Genesis, which not only expanded the gameplay and world building, but also added the first of many companions to Blue Blur. Miles per Hour, better known by his nickname Tails, and the two Tails and the design as a whole are actually based on the mythological Japanese beast known as Kitsune, and of course, he's been one of the most prominent characters in the series ever since then. So yeah, the momentum would definitely continue well into 1993, which brings my first point. 1993 saw 3 spin-offs start out. And personally, I won't be going over every single game, but I'll go over one start out me personally. There was the puzzle-based spin-off Dr. Robot's Mean Machine, a pretty fun little puzzle title, basically the American version of the Puyo Puyo series. Sonic Spinball, which I feel like I recently beaten, a pinball-based title, which isn't great, but I have a soft spot for it. And my personal favorite of the bunch that come out of that year, Sonic CD. Easily my favorite game on 6D add-on, which actually uses CD technology properly for stuff like the cutscenes and the CD quality audio. Also introduced 2 characters that are mainstays of the series to this day. Metal Sonic, a robotic antagonist that's the opposite Sonic in every way, and Amy Rose, who instantly fall in love with the hedgehog that saved her, and which has definitely been portrayed more than once this day, and we'll come back to this. Yeah. 1984 was a pretty big year for the series and for video games as a whole. So, and it turns out that Sonic 3 would end up being the biggest of the 16-bit titles and more as one, to the point where the whole back half of the game, known as Sonic and Knuckles, would actually have its own logon technology, which combines two experiences of one, also unlocked other features in the other games you might have. Basically, it was like an early physical version DLC, an expansion, and a whole other new experience. And some people were on about how the expansion has broken Sword and Shield. Fair. That said, this one hasn't been released as often more in the last decade, and but it is among my favorite entries in the series and on Genesis as a whole, which would make an interesting segue into my next topic here. Yep. Okay, and the Sega Saturn era was definitely an interesting one for the series, given how, regrettably, actual standalone Sonic games that were in development never saw the light of day, though that's not to say there was nothing in there on the console. So there was like the compilation Sonic Jam, which is like one of many re-releases of the first few games, and also like a 3D Hub World, which has some experience of its own, which was essentially a test run for what will come on the next generation. And on the other side of the coin, we had the racing spin-off Sonic R, which was a strange base. It went off against a lot of heat, but a soft spot for it. I mean, I definitely can file that under one of the lessons I enjoyed, and I want to make clear that even in the bad entries of the series, quote unquote, I managed to find something to enjoy in them. So let's keep it going. Yeah. Sega Dreamcast was their last console to be released before they shipped their focus to software, and the first sweet taste 128-bit plum. I mean, if the 8 and 16-bit era started my love of video games, then this one cemented it, and this being one of the reasons why, Sonic Adventure. And even though the 1C type may now be a product of its time, factoring both the original release and its GameCube re-release Sonic DX, I definitely have some enjoyment to be had in this title, and highly, even with the infamous bit, the cat missions, it still enters a lot of material here in the series which I really enjoy heartily and continue to do such all this time. Now that I'll work its still in the end of the 90s, beginning of the millennium, so let's keep going. 2001, as I just mentioned, was marked the last time Sega would be competing among consoles, though also the first sign they'd be making peace with former rivals at Nintendo and other manufacturers. I mean, as shown by this year's game, Sonic Adventure 2, which was the last game released as exclusively on Sega system, at least at first, and the first to be released on other systems as well, such as the GameCube, as well as other later parts. I mean, and with that in mind, I think it was a good one to go out hold on. I mean, I also introduced Shadow the Hedgehog and Rouge the Bat. Other characters will be going to become mains of the series, and even though interesting darker elements has often been hit or miss, as for the series, I am one of the people who suggest that it falls into like the former category, and also helps that the adventure works a different way in terms of story, both the hero and dark storylines, and also the like the idea of the and also the music was really catchy, both the Crush 40 theme as well as like some of the interval stages, like how Pumpkin Hill Zone is definitely one that always gets me in the mood during spooky season in October. So yeah. There was also multi-platform Sonic Heroes, which is another one of my favorite three installments, the first installment ones overall. Released simultaneously on PS2, GameCube, and Visual Xbox on January 6, 2004. I played the GameCube version the most, and that's definitely one I seem to enjoy the most. I mean, got team-based gameplay. We have one speed-based character, one power character, and one flight character on each team. And I really like the idea of doing that to get through each stage. And not only would I wish more games did this, but also be happy if they re-released it, even if it's just as something like PSN and Xbox Game Pass or Nintendo eShop. So, which also provided an interesting look at what came next a couple years later. Yeah. 2006 was a pretty interesting time in the series. On one hand, you had Sonic Secret Rings on Nintendo Wii, which was a solid little platformer with the Rainbow-Nights theming, in which, even though it was a motion control-based platform, it was actually pretty decent. On the other hand, you had Sonic 06, which, even though some people have tried to defend it, in my case, yeah, it's bad, but it's also kind of hilarious. I say this as for someone who played it when I was 15, and I'm still playing it now that I'm still that age. probably do a whole other video on it, but I find that one, even though it's obviously pretty terrible, oh, I find entertaining the same reasons I would find something like, say, The Room or Plan 9 as entertaining movies. I mean, if that makes sense to you all. Which definitely, I think there's been few games that have kind of gotten that reaction to me with the end of the series, so let's keep at it. And in 2008, the next main title was Sonic Unleashed, which was an interesting one to say the least. I mean, the day stages, which focus on speed and platforming elements, were the highlights for me and many others. But on that same time, you had like the night stage, which due to a freak accident / curse that was placed on Sonic, turns to like a lumbering warehog, which typically focuses a lot more on action and adventure. I mean, it's not a full-on Sonic Adventure 3. It's more like Sonic Adventure 2.5 at best. I mean, and to be fair, that's mostly based on the brief time I spent with the PS3 version on PS Now. When it first came out, the one I played the most was the Wii version, which retains both the aforementioned day and night stages, but for the exploration, focuses on a much more simple point and click mechanic, and that kind of like managed to get the tentacle. I mean, I haven't played the PS2 version, but I gather it's kind of similar given how that turned out. So, not the best game in the series, but not the worst either, being totally honest. Though I do admit the initial design of the movie did give me flashbacks to the Werehog, given how juiced he looked, so yeah. 2010 saw the release of a couple games that definitely attempted to do less, and as they say, less is more, by focusing on speed and platforming elements that made it work to begin with, albeit different ways. Both episodes of Sonic 4 definitely did their best in this regard. I mean, again, they're not my favorite 2D installments, but they've got their charm. More successful was Sonic Colors, which not only kept those elements, but also the Wisp's power-ups were definitely an interesting idea. And even though the remaster just got some updates, I'll have to check it out again. But I will say that even as the original Wii games was its counterpart on the DS, were among the best the series had to offer, which also set the stage for the next game that came out next year in 2011. Yeah. Okay, so one of my favorite installments, not just the 3D era, but the entire franchise, it came out this year in 2011, Sonic Generations. And not only did it capture the best elements of both the 2D and 3D installments of the franchise to the point featuring both the classic and modern version of the character, it managed to even work on some of the elements ones we'll see, despite Game Warm, I think. Kind of like how Spider-Man No Way Home not only kept the best elements of the previous incarnation of the franchise, but also fixed the less well-received ones, like how the redesigned boss battle with Silver in the classic Crisis City stages that actually took a game that was pretty divisive and made it a lot better. I mean, and even though the other supporting characters are in the game, you mainly play as Sonic and also can unlock the original Genesis version. That's always pretty sweet. I wish more games would give you the ability to unlock the classic games and as part of the new one, to be honest. Yeah. In 2013, saw the release of Sonic Wall Swirl, which is a pretty decent platformer with elements from the Camp Sonic Extreme, and even though Deadly Six were not the best villains I've ever seen, even now, how those people see them as jokes, and I kind of still do as well. Hell, it was decent. Not extreme in quality, but decent. I mean, don't have much to say on how this one, to be honest. So, Sonic Boom, like how, even though the cartoon was decent, I'll definitely talk about more of my Sonic cartoon retrospective next year. I mean, the games were pretty buggy, even for the brief sessions I play with them. I mean, even with the patch they installed, I've heard Fire and Ice is better on 3DS, but I've not tried that one yet. I might look into it if I get a chance to. So, let's continue. Yeah. So, 2017 definitely saw two major games released for that, both of which worked for different reasons. I mean, like, Sonic Mania is excellent. Definitely one of the best 2D installments of the series to date, no matter what version I play it on. And as for Forces, it's fine. It's not quite Generations, but also not quite 06 either, so I'll definitely talk about more about Forces when I have a separate video on that. So I'm going to help wrap this up. Don't want to pull on this till 2022. Yeah. So, after many years in development, as well as the time we spent when redesigning the visual effects and reshoots, in 2020, the movie finally came out and was a success, making $300 million worldwide and getting a Paramount new franchise in the process. Looking forward to the sequel, we'll talk about that in the outro. It's one of 3 movies on the before time, along with Birds of Prey and Onward. Not sure what to expect yet, but hopefully Omicron will have cooled down a bit by the time we go see the sequel. I'm very much looking forward to seeing. I want to look at how they're handling Knuckles, Tails, and the Chaos Emeralds in a few elements, so let's wrap this up. Yeah. All of this leads us to next year and beyond for the series. I mean, Sonic Frontiers definitely has potential as like a full open world installment in the series, like a basically like Sonic Adventure 3 I never got and then some. The movie sequel I just mentioned looks really cool. Definitely gonna be getting to see it as soon as I can. And the Sonic Prime cartoon coming on Netflix might be fun as well. I mean, I've seen leaked info and images. Not sure what to expect. I know the song is always going to be in it, along with Side Amy, Tails, and Eggman, and no one other characters yet. But based on what I'm seeing so far, it is at least sending a message in regards to Man of X's involvement, and that message is, we're really sorry about Mega Man Fully Charged. We really are. And much like other ones, it's very well been quality over the years, as I've talked about, but it's still a franchise I have a soft spot for. I think a lot of people do, and being Sega's most well-known IP and biggest cash cow, I think that's definitely it's been impact, and how we perceive it is definitely the how all that matters at this point. So, with that in mind, I will see you all in 2022, and I wish you all a happy new year. Godspeed, kid.